that half an apple can't do.
I don't know what.
It can't look round.
So this is Don
And this is Gina.
with Focused Healthy Family, and it's time for another Tuesday Tips. Today we're talking about consequences.
That's a big one.
According to Don Dinkmeyer and Gary McKay in their book, The Parent's Handbook, Systematic Training for Effective Parenting, good consequences are described as natural and logical. As an example, if you don't wear gloves, your hands get cold. Finding appropriate consequences used infrequently works much better than punishment. This is based on what they say in their book.
And we might not agree with everything that's in their book. And what I was saying to Don, as we talked about this before we went on air, was naturally occurring consequences that the child experiences themselves is far more powerful and effective than us barking at them. Well, if you don't wear your gloves, your hands are going to get cold. Allowing them to experience that, unless you live in a part of the country or the world where, you're prone to frostbite, with the temperatures being, way below freezing, our kids are not going to die if their hands get cold. For them to experience that on their own, rather than lecturing at them about, I don't believe in imposing consequences per se for most situations, because that really is a form of punishment. And we can talk about that more in depth and join us at our workshops based on the book, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. Find it on our website. But them, you think about yourself. Do you want someone telling you, when I tell you, drive safe, you're going to work. Don, if you don't drive safe, you might crash your car. How does that feel if I say that to you?
But it's I think it's also the way you say it. Because if my child comes up to me and says, do you think I should wear gloves? And the first thing you'd want to say is, well, what do you think? Mm-hmm. And then, being able to say to them, well, we have cat fight going on behind us here again. They love to join in on our Tuesday tips.
Yeah, I think they
don't fight is what their tip is, I think. But if you say, well, what do you think? And they say, well, I don't really know. I said, well, if you go out and it's cold and you don't have gloves on, you'll feel, how did they say? If you don't wear the gloves, it could get your hands cold.
So what you're talking about is a conversation.
Yeah.
When your kid is looking for information about wearing gloves. So I think they're often referring more to the, versus a punishment, right? You're not out to punish your child when they ask you, should I wear gloves or not?
Yeah.
It's more, they forgot their gloves, they forget things, you're going to punish them. And they're talking about imposing consequences on them versus a natural consequence. I don't want to wear my gloves, right? Oh, if you don't wear your gloves, then, you can't go on the computer when you get home, right?
Yeah.
That's a punishment. An imposed consequence is, if you don't wear your gloves, your hands are going to get cold. And we could even take that, and then your fingers might fall off. You're going to get frostbite, right? We can throw that sarcasm in that.
If you could just see the video of this, as she puts her hands on her hips, she has to do that. Even in audio, you have to use the hand.
I talk with my hands.
Yes.
And we will be going on video one of these days.
So we threw you off a little bit.
So the natural consequence is they experience it, right? Lecturing at our kids, does it work? If we have to say something over and over again, and maybe we feel like that's the only way to get through to them.
Or we get louder. Yeah. That's the other one.
That's the only way they listen. Is that really what we want? Is that really the relationship we want with our children? To be barking at them? And also, weighing the real serious, dangerous things with incidental things like gloves. In the big picture, 5 years from now, 15 years from now, how much will that matter?
Well, you got to give them the opportunity to experience it so that they can actually learn from it and gain
Because if they go out and
their
they don't have
abilities.
gloves and their hands get really cold and you don't say anything, and they decide that their hands were cold, that's going to have a
They put the
stronger
two together then,
impact
yeah.
on them making a difference
Yeah.
versus you lecturing at them. You know, some kids just want to be so independent that they're going to do the opposite of what you suggest, and letting them find out. And maybe they are so stubborn that they just want to be with cold hands. And, you know, does anyone really die of cold hands?
Well, my mother was like that. She would not let us leave the house. You know, if it snowed, we had to have what they called them galoshes back then, but our boots. And they were a pain to put on.
Did they fit over top of your
yeah,
shoes?
and oh my God, they were hard to get on, and then they had these weird clamps that, anyway.
Yeah, like rubber
And
boots.
she insisted upon wearing gloves and coats and all.
I'm thinking of the Christmas Story.
Well, yeah, well, you couldn't put the arms down.
Bundling them up to go out in the snow.
But that was and it wasn't, you know. But Mom, it did, you know, whatever. We never got that opportunity to make our own decisions on it. It was just, this is what it is. You wear this, you know.
I'm sure there was an age, especially with your older siblings, that, like, I could see that you complied well with your mother, but.
Well, Anne didn't.
But just, yeah, and then that creates a dynamic, you know, with your child. If you're constantly demanding they do things and they're bucking it, then you get into a power struggle over, you know, them being cold and wet.
You'll catch your death of cold. Your death of cold.
You'll catch pneumonia.
Pneumonia, yeah, that's
pneumonia is not floating around in the air when it's cold. Your immune system, it becomes lowered and you're more susceptible. But some of these things that we say or that we've heard our parents say, our grandparents, you know, they pop out of our mouth and we go, oh my goodness, I sound like my mother or my father or my grandmother.
Yeah. So,
and they become habits.
Yeah. So I guess the moral of the story, or the moral of this tip, is to allow your child to experience things
and allow them to make mistakes.
So that they can learn on their own
and let them come to the conclusion.
It's a much more powerful experience or powerful learning process for them to be able to experience it.
And to reiterate what you said, asking the questions.
Yeah. Having a conversation with them.
Like if they come home and they're complaining about their hands, like, oh, your hands got really cold.
What's going on with that? Or, you know. How...
Yeah, and allowing them to come to that conclusion. And it's tough as a parent because you want to just say, well, if you wore your gloves, your hands wouldn't be cold, right? We all do things like that all the time, Don and I included.
With a lot of things besides just cold,
and
too.
Yet then you could go, okay, wait a minute, you know, okay, that's my opinion on things. If my hands are cold, you know, I say I need to wear my gloves. You know, what do you think? And opening up to that curiosity and allowing them, because if we want our kids to truly be independent, we've got to give them all kinds of opportunities, from when they're 4 years old and don't want to wear their coat outside to when they're...
Well, yeah, because children want some semblance of control in their life, even at a very young age. And it's hard for parents to give that up. But you just have to do little bits at a time.
Yet you want them to be independent in other ways, so you have to give them the opportunities
to be independent,
make those choices, and
yes.
Starting with little things and letting them learn from their mistakes. I was doing this with other issues with our middle daughter or older daughter who's 20, sharing my experiences, knowing I wish I would have known now what I knew when I was 20, and I stopped myself and went, you know, she's just got to live and go through it. I can't impart all my wisdom and confidence that I have at 53 onto my 20-year-old. I can share things, yet she's got to have her own experience with it.
Well, one way to be able to share that is by developing conversation with, communicating with your child, so that
it's all about communication.
They can ask about that versus you telling them. Yeah. Having the ability to have ongoing conversation with them, so they know it's comfortable and safe to come to you and talk to you about things. That gives you an opportunity where they'll ask you about things,
bigger things
that you can share your experience, and that's a much more effective way to do it. So
yeah, if your kids are young, I like to say, do you want children who do what they're told all the time? and, have consequences for their actions. Because when they're teenagers, when they're going out with friends on their own, when they're driving, do you want to have a teen who does what they're told? Because that's how they get influenced by peers. If they're not able to independently make their own decisions, and having the ability to do so from a very young age at home in a safe environment and with small things that really don't matter as much, it's going to play out as they get older, to be independent and to not fall into just doing what they're told to do, because that's not really a skill that benefits us with big, serious kind of issues. Yes, we need to be able to follow instructions and get things done on time, projects, whether it's work or other responsibilities, yet just complying because I said so doesn't usually lead to very good outcomes in the long run. We could go on and on about this. Again, it speaks to skills you learn in the workshop, and based on that book, you can certainly get the book. Don has it on audio. You'd love to listen to it in the car when you don't have time to sit down and read, having the audio version.
How to talk so kids will listen, and listen so kids will talk.
And when we do the workshop, it's that opportunity to practice the skills, interact with other parents. It takes it one step further. So let us know if you're interested in that. Look at our website, our blogs, and think about punishments and consequences as you go through your day today and over the next week.
And you can find out more at our website, www.focusedhealthyfamily.com. That's focused with an ED. There you'll find about the podcast itself. You'll find out about our blogs and our workshops. So I hope this has helped, and we thank you for being here.
And remember, how you speak to your children today shapes their future.